So we're going to look at that classic thing. You've gone out, you've got your footage. Now you need to do some post-edit. You're in Final Cut Pro. How do you get that just look a bit sharper? If you're a beginner, this is going to be ideal. We're not going to go too in depth on this. To get this underway, I'll just show you exactly the kind of morning I had filming. So I was out on Brighton seafront, and as you can see in this bit of footage here, it was morning golden hour. The sun had just come up. If I go back a bit, when I got to the seafront, there was this little boat out on the water, and I couldn't help but go by. But look how soft the water is. Barely a ripple on it. It was perfect morning. My focus was on getting the pavilion. Let me give you some advice. When you want to go and shoot something, shoot as many times as you could. It was so icy cold. I was trying to make these little thumb movements, and my thumb was so cold. I should have worn gloves. It was about -2 this morning. So the footage isn't as ideal as I'd like it to be. But how do I get better color gradient, and why take multiple footage? So if we look at this one here, it is clearly washed out. I'm shooting here in 4K. And you look at this one, it's further out, but it's still washed out. So you got this washed out, that washed out. Try and get there. You can see very low detail. And then on this third one, you can see there's more detail. It's still washed out, but I've corrected the shutter speed quite significantly there. The sun had just come up a little bit more, so that the actual scene levels had come up in terms of brightness. How do we get that to look a bit cleaner? When I do this, for pure simplicity here, we're not going to go into the very depths of how you can edit on here. If you've clicked on your clip and we go to here, I have it set up with the color wheels. I just think it's the easiest way to approach color correction, and you can sort of do this by feel and by sight, because you know when something looks wrong. You know when something looks oversaturated. There are loads of tools on here, and we're going to go into this in further lessons. There's histograms, etc, etc, etc. I'm going to avoid global for a minute, but if you make any mistakes with it, don't worry, you can always go back. You just push the button there and it goes backwards a step. And you can do that on each of the 4 wheels, so you can just go back, back, back. Shadows, nice, easy. Let's start. Let's just pull it right up. Immediately, that's put a load of color, a lot of blue color into it. You can come down and you get this sort of like more sepia tone to it. It really depends what you're looking for. You can do the other side. You can get an even more washed out look, but you come right down and you get sort of like a real highlight on the grayer shadows. You're not likely to go to either extreme. Then of course you can play around with the color tones. So at the moment it's set on the sort of a bluer scale, but you can bring it more into the pinks. You can go down into the sort of light blues, greens, and yellows. So you can play with what colors you want in the shadows, and you can do that with each of these. So you can bring out more what you want. So it might be that you're looking to really get those greens popping because of the grass, which might make sense. So you bring that up and you really make those greens vivid, or you could make them look a little bit more natural like that. And I think already, so if I go back, just recollect where I was, you already getting that much. So I go back to that sort of greener. Where am I going to go? Green there. Come up and bring this down, and already that looks far more natural in your tones. Then your highlights. Now these are your brighter colors, so I don't think your highlights are going to be in the green areas. I think the highlights here are more in those whites and yellows. So I'm going to move this somewhere in this region. As you can see, the highlights, I'm just picking out the yellows. Now let's just play around with that. That has brought a lot of color to the picture, but it's probably a bit unnatural. That's not really the color we're looking for, but somewhere. So if you go back to neutral, I'd say it's above neutral, somewhere in that zone. We'll bring this up just to see what happens. So right up, that's really cleaned the picture up. We come right down, it's made it very dull. I think, do I want that? I sort of want that background a little bit more vignette than that, but I do like the clarity. And then if you come down to your midtones, again, so your midtones are going to be sort of these colors here. And so I'm going to focus a little bit on the blues. So I'm going to try and match that grey blue. Let's go with somewhere in that region. Let's have a little look. So we'll bring that up there. And we're already getting, so if you brought it right up, you can see. And so now that looks deeply unnatural. But the funny thing is, then you bring it back down and it feels very, very, like you bring it back down to where you originally were and it feels a little washed out again. So by going up to the extreme, you get to find out quite a bit. I quite like somewhere quite high on that mid-tone. Bring it right down, bring it right up, have a little look. I think actually just a little down. Now that looks far more natural. Go through the clip. Look at those yellows. We can compare that with the exact same clip. So we can just make a copy of this, lay it over the top. So there you go. So we've copied and pasted. All I'm going to do is just return everything to normal as our original. And so you look at that, and then I can go over here, take this clip, leave it where it was, and we can have a little look, and then we can just make the original opaque. And you can see that green is a lot clearer, a lot cleaner, a lot more vibrant. If you look at the yellows of the Royal Pavilion, there's the original, a sort of almost grey white, very, very washed out, very, very dull. You come back, possibly a little too rich, possibly. I might tone that down a bit. So if I go back to this and get that on that colour wheel again, and I just tone that down a little bit, just so it doesn't feel so unnatural. I see this is something I really like to do. So we go back to that. Now make that opaque again. Yeah, that is far more natural. You get the yellow bricks of the theatre. That looks far more natural. And then if we just bring it on, actually that's going to be a good location, because on that roof you've got that yellow moss. What does that look like in the original? So if we bring that up, yeah, you can barely see that yellow moss. It's not a highlight. I think it's a good way to go. I think it's a great way to go. You get that opacity back down on that, so you can see the modified clip. That yellow really stands out, very, very vibrant. I think it really adds to the quality of the image. And so that really is just a simple way of just upping. We've not done anything fancy with it. We've just played with the colors, just test things out. And we didn't go for the general. We just played with the three. So like your midtones, your highlights, and your shadows. And you just get a much richer image. That's that one there. I mean, this one is even more washed out. So we can delete that now. Don't need that. Just for contrast, let's take the boat image. I'm going to cut out the majority of this because I'm faffing around. I just want to get to that point about there because I really like that. If you're looking at, by the way, learn your shortcuts. Command B, you need it. Let's Command copy and then make that one completely opaque. So on this one, we're going to probably do things a little bit different. As you can see, the colouring here is very different to the colouring here. Pinks, dark blue, dark purple. And really what we're trying to achieve from this, what I'm trying to achieve, not we, you will want to achieve whatever you want to achieve with your content. On the cloud, on the horizon there, I want to make that a little bit pinker. I want that to stand out, be a little brighter. I want to get that water looking a little richer. I want that background just to perhaps feel a little bit hazier. But we'll see. We'll play around with the colors because that's all we're doing. We're not going too technical with this. Bring up our color wheels and we'll just take on the shadows to start with, nice and easy. Bring that right up. That's made it way too blue to pink and down here. But we're in that blue and I don't know if that's the right blue. So let's see if we can find the right shade. A little bit in that purple zone. So now let's try this. Let's see what happens. So we'll bring the purples up. No, don't like that. So we want to go into the darker blues somewhere. Okay, now let's try this. No, that's way off. In fact, let's just keep it turned right up till it's. There we go. So it's a bit of a lighter blue. I've got lights right in my face here and the screen is actually a little bit dull to me. In fact, let's turn that screen up. Oh, that's so much better. Should have done that in the first place. Wish I'd done this at the start of the video. There's that richness on the blue. Nice. Okay, let's just wash it right out. Awful. So there's our middle ground. And there's our pinkness. Look at that lovely pink in the background. It's all there. It's all there to be played with. But obviously, I'm not going to be doing that. So now, look, you can see that's too pale, and then it goes too dark. So you can literally, by feel, just get there and you go, That's it. That's the one. That's the moment. That's the spot. Okay, so now we're looking at our highlights, and our highlights are these little flecks of pink, and I want to get them just right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up towards the pink, and then I'm going to bring that up. I don't like right up here is too much. That's prettier. And then we can, I don't want to touch this too much. Pull this up a little bit more, Lovely. I like that. And then our midtones, we want to come down for these pale blues, really pale blues. Let's just go right up, way too washed out. Let's go right down the bottom on the midtones. Get that real, that's very, I like that. It's not going to work in a video. It's too dark. It's too moody, but I like that a lot. I like it a lot. I'm going to bring it up a bit. There we go. So if we were to take the original image, bring the opacity back, there's the original. So those pinks in the background, they're doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're barely there. The blue's barely perceptible, and the water is clearly grey, which was very difficult to tell in the original. I'm sorry, didn't have the opacity at full. Now we get rid of the image, and you get that sort of almost like crazy morning feel. Now let's see how that actually. So it's still rendering. While that's rendering, let's just go back and have a look at this original image. Which we didn't really allow to play, but you just get this, and I've done this very, very slow. It's great if when you're doing your drone shots, keep that, see how smooth now eventually I got there, keeping that dead center. Now let's have a look at this shot, because it's in 4K. My Apple Mac is going, what is going on? There's a lot going on here. I love that bird. I kind of want to zoom in on it. I love with 4K how you can zoom in so well, even in these sort of like darker tones. Lovely. And then the final one that we'll look at is this sunrise. We'll get those color wheels up. Now when we're looking at this, our shadows are all around here. So there's our shadows. The clouds are going to be a bit shadowed. They're very much in that darker blue. I don't want to go too far into it. Pull it right up. Silly. Pull it right down. Black and white. So let's go back to the middle, and we'll just lift it a little bit, a smidge. Go right up. Obviously far too washed out, come right down, too dark, middle, down just a touch, and go up just a touch. See, I like the moodiness of just a little bit down. We'll go with our highlights. Now our highlights is obviously the yellow, so we're going to come into that yellow color. I want it to be perhaps a little bit more orange. Pull it right up. I actually quite like the ridiculousness of that. Pull that down, and then pull it all the way to the top, obviously making it a bit crazy. Back to there. And now let's just pull it down a smidge, see what happens. Go up a little bit, just finding that balance. There you go. I really like that. That's where I feel the image is at its best. Midtones. There's a lot of midtone in there. So let's go again into that pink. Let's bring it right in just to see the ridiculousness of it. Nope, that really ruins the image. Let's come right down, take the pink out, and very much makes it grey. Come in a little bit, whack it right up. Awful, whack it right down. There's something to say for that. Bring it down a smidge. I quite like that. Now we can make the comparison and see the difference. There's your grey image. There's your dusted up image. And this is what we're talking about. There's a way of taking that imagery, and so when a person's watching it, they're going, wow, this is spectacular. This is beautiful. We'd really appreciate a follow. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the bell icon. It means the world to us. Follow us across any of our other socials if you want. Otherwise, thank you very much. See you in the next video.